And Spiral Bound technically was put out on Doomtree Press, but that was also just my Visa card. Without me, how would my headache get around? And then this is a haiku that I wrote recently as I was trying to figure out like what a good non-douchey definition of poetry might actually be. Poetry. The shortest distance between two. I like that, but I also think a substitute teacher might like that, and I hate that. And then this was a haiku that I had written on the invitation of the New Standards holiday show, which is like an institution in the Twin Cities. Do not finger count. It debases us all. Trust. I am haikuing. Okay. With the release of one of my albums called Chime, I included like a poem. That one was called Tossed. A hurricane with a woman's name comes down the coast, batters your neighbor's houses, but spares yours, which she moves into. You raise 2 children together, a boy and a girl. When they are old enough for sleepaway camp, the 2 of you weekend at a B&B to sit in a hot tub and giggle like idiots, drinking white wine from the bottle. She suggests that you part your hair on the other side, which offends you as trifling and wildly overbearing, but also suits your face much better. You add a deck to the house. You take swing dancing classes, and they are not too bad. It's after a long, frustrating workday that she comes home to find you sipping a Manhattan on the deck, and instead of preparing one for herself, she lifts you up and throws you through the neighbor's oak tree, your body speared right through the hardwood, ruined. Because she is a hurricane. And then every once in a while when I'm on stage, something will break and we'll have to buy a little bit of time. Or somebody will need to tune a guitar and we'll have to buy a little bit of time. And so I tend to have like a couple of poems at my feet just in case of disaster or tuning. And this is one that I sometimes read on stage. Let's see, I'm gonna turn you. I'm going to adjust you. Okay, don't fall down. Don't fall down. Okay. The body. Most of your body is water. Also, most of your body is oxygen. Most of your body lives in darkness because it is the part of your body inside your body. It would weigh about 1/2 pound. Your body is yours for as long as you're around, but it will last a little longer than you do. Your body comes with thumbs that don't seem particularly special until someone explains them to you. Your skeleton is a puppet wrapped in its own strings. Your life is a brief parole from non-existence. Your body is a spacesuit. You are not viable outside of it. Most of the cells in your body aren't human. They're microbes, technically not yours at all. Your body is the holster for your name. You will have to share your name with many other people. You will probably share your body with some people too. There are only 2 alternatives to death, but we haven't discovered either of them yet. Okay. If you are tuning in, I mentioned that this thing is totally free. So if you are a server or a bartender or anyone else who is really struggling with the new economic reality, don't pay. But I am going to show my Venmo information in case people want to. Can you see that? I think you can see that. Yes. I'm going to leave it here for 1 second while I talk in case you want to take a screenshot. That's me at the top, Dessa Wander. And also half of the proceeds from tonight are going to be benefiting the Domestic Abuse Project here in Minnesota. A friend of mine, Kristen, has worked there for a really long time, and they do good work, and they're hustling really hard to try to figure out how to help families who are doubly challenged right now. You know, like home is not always a safe place to shelter, so that puts you in a really tough bind. So if you want to donate directly to the Domestic Abuse Project, you can do so right there. Bing, 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 bing. And now I'm just going to have our graphics guy remove that card. Fantastic. Thanks, Tom. Okay. I've been working for a really long time on this project, which I've been kind of dragging my feet on because I want to get it just right. And I have that bad habit sometimes, like, it can't suck if it's never done. But there's a series of poems that I've been working on that are part of a collection called A Guide to All Creation. And it's really loosely riffing on the book of Genesis. I'm going to read 3 poems from that series. The first one is called How to Make the Past. In the beginning, every day will be the first day. The living things with minds will startle awake like filaments electrified. And the mindless living things will bend towards the light, too simple even to properly be blind. The days will not pass singly, but all at once, in booming unison. They must be field broken before they'll submit to any sequence. New time, it's not line-like. New time is like a loaf of playing cards before it has been sliced for play. During training, you will lose some days to exhaustion. Others will escape. This is the cost of doing business. But when they'll go, heel towing, days may be knotted end to end. And then the living things with minds will fraternize in copulation, trade, and homicide, opposed or allied in every permutation, stepsister, mistress, mercenary, tutor, rival, live-in help. Without being told, the days will trail behind them, stepping neatly in each other's hoofprints, noses to the ground. How to make the dead. The first round must be done from scratch. It's only through example that the living will learn what they are meant to do. The substrate is immaterial. The dead can be shaped from anything, really. But the process is painstaking. They must be kept cool and moist and alkaline, must be read to in German or in very stern French, or they will stand. Open one eye, go pink and warm and ruined, and you will have to begin again, from next to nothing. How to make the fishes. Start with a solid block of flesh, chilled. Set aside half a cup of mercury, a 1/4 pound of slivered bone, extra virgin olive oil, and a ballpoint pen. Preheat the oven to 45 degrees. Bring mercury and pen to boil. Reduce heat. Lie down on the linoleum, stirring occasionally. Add salt and ash to taste, and set aside uncovered. Left on the counter for a lunar month, the fishes will make themselves. They will talk incessantly at first, but should go dumb by the 3rd day. They must be taught to breathe water, must unlearn multiplication and astronomy, must be prevented from singing, unionizing, but they cannot be kept from cursive. They'll swim it as if guided by a single stylus, and lifted from the tub, the lone fish will still flex and bend with all the others, and if you fold him in your hands forcibly, the rest will jackknife in the water till he is allowed to spring flat and fast again. For all our other feats of husbandry, we cannot yet make fish who do not swim out their complaints longhand at being made. Okay, so that's a series of 3 from A Guide to All Creation, and I want to quickly thank Sims Bud. I don't know if you're watching, but when you asked me to officiate your wedding along with Laserbeak 1 million years ago, one of my jobs was to go and get tag board so that I could mount your vows and Sarah's vows. And I just kept that tag board. I've been using it for 10 years. So, but I'm a Venmo you like $1.89 after this live stream. Okay, one more time. Here we go. Again, if you're broke or think you might go broke soon, don't sweat it. Hang on to your dollars and save your resources. If you're inclined to toss something into the hat, that's me, Dessa Wander. This is Venmo stuff. And half of the proceeds that I received tonight will be going to the Domestic Abuse Project here in Minnesota, which is doing really good work serving a community that's particularly hard hit by a shelter-at-home order. If you want to bypass me, that's cool. That's DAP, MN. DAP-MN. And I'm just going to ask Tom, thanks, man, if you just want to remove the graphic. Great. Okay. Pause in the poetry reading for 1 second, and we're going to walk to my window. Okay. Great. I was in London when the travel ban hit for quarantine, and so like a lot of Americans there, I scrambled to try to find a ticket home and do my sheltering here in Minneapolis, which is where I am now. And the news coverage in Europe, at least by my lights, looked a little bit different than it does here. I think we're getting a lot of information about how many people are sick, what an exponential growth curve looks like, what it means to flatten that curve by trying to take down transmission rates. But we haven't gotten quite as many stories yet of people who are really losing people in real time. And those, I think, are the stories that make us afraid enough to comply with really hard asks, you know? So one of the things that probably a lot of you saw was like how the Italians, being irrepressibly Italian, would put on these cool like concerts outside their windows. One of the things that really got me was a show of gratitude that some Mediterranean cities did when they looked out their window at night and they could see that even though everyone had been asked to stay inside, the health workers were starting their procession towards work and thereby risking themselves, particularly with inadequate gear. And there's some move to try to simulate that show of gratitude here in the U.S. So at 8 p.m. every night, people will open their windows and clap. I cannot imagine that it's spread too far yet, but if you're game to join, I think it'd be really sweet. Hang on. I think it's 8-ish. It's 8-ish, yeah. So even if it's just me, I'm doing that every night at 8. Join me, yeah? Okay. Back to the TV set. Okay, well, I have really enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. Cheers one more time. If you did decide to dress up above the waist in cocktail attire, post your outfit. I'm using the hashtag show of force majeure. If you don't know, like the force majeure is what's often in a contract when it means essentially that a huge and unstoppable force has canceled a show, which is true for all of us at the moment, yeah? So I'm going to try again. I think if people dug it, to do it next Thursday too. If you're unfamiliar with the performing arts, that's called pandering. I'm doing it next Thursday. But before we go and I say goodnight, there's a super brief little rhyming poem that's often attributed to Dorothy Parker, although I think that might be apocryphal. I like to have a martini, 2 at the very most. After 3, I'm under the table. After 4, I'm under my host. I'll see you next week. Stay safe. Good night.